Hey, good morning, everybody. It is Thursday morning, and this is Thursday Morning Live. How's everybody doing? I hope everybody had a great 4th of July weekend. It certainly was a hot one over the weekend, but there were a lot of great things going on, and even in the midst of a little chaos here in Chicago. But anyhow, welcome here this morning. I'm going to get started really quick here this morning. I want to just remind you that the show today is brought to you by the GOB Network. Remember, next week, the 13th and 14th here of July, here in Chicago, we have the live GOB Multifamily Conference that's be coming up. Should be 500 to 600 people there. If you haven't registered yet, there's still time to get a ticket. I'm going to give away a free ticket this morning. So anybody who wants one, throw your hat in the ring, put a comment in the comment box. Get to me by 5 o'clock this afternoon, and I'll make sure that you get a ticket for that event next week. A stage packed full of great speakers from around the country, a lot of people, a lot of networking going on. You won't want to miss this event, that's for sure. Hey, this morning I am joined by a new friend. We were connected by a really good friend of mine, Chad Coe. You may remember Chad's been on the show a couple of times. And Steve Goldstein, he's the ChicagoBroker.com. He's a CRE broker. He's affiliated with Jamison Real Estate here in the city, and he's got over 30 years of experience. So he's got to be somewhere around the same amount of time in the business as I've been in. But let me bring Steven in. Hey, good morning, Steven.
Good morning, Mike.
How are you? Good to see you.
Good to see you too.
So this is really the first time you and I get to connect or meet. And, I always like that because we kind of get thrown into the lion's den is what I say. And, let's rip it up and see what happens, right?
That's good.
Hey, one question I always ask my guests when I start my show in the morning is, in one word, what best describes you personally and professionally?
I would say creativity.
Creativity. Interesting. I want to dive into that because I know before the show we talked a little bit about creativity and your ability to do some creative deal making in the real estate space, which is always intriguing to people, right? When I first got in the business, I followed a trainer by the name of Robert Allen. And if you've been around as long as I have, you may or may not know him, but he was the no money down guy, right?
I was Carlton Sheets.
Well, he did it too, but I think Robert Allen was the grandfather for it. But
I do remember Robert Allen. He wrote some books on no money down or creative finance, I think.
Yep, exactly. He wrote a book called No Money Down, but
I read it.
He was the guy that said, "Hey, put me in any city in the country, take my wallet, and by the end of the weekend, I'll have bought real estate." And the St. Louis Times took him up on it, dropped him in the middle of St. Louis, gave him $20, took his wallet. By the end of the weekend, he owned 4 pieces of real estate or controlled 4 pieces of real estate. So it was an interesting thing. But hey, let's do this. Jump in. Let's talk a little bit about you. Talk about your background, how you got into real estate and what you're currently doing.
Sure. So I started in the real estate business in 1989 as a mortgage broker. And I learned about mortgage finance and mainly dealing with residential loans. And I just realized very quickly that I didn't like the residential market. I didn't like just the emotion of it and the hours and just the way that it worked. So I segued over to commercial. I met a developer who needed a right-hand man to do leasing and management. And I was taken under his wing, and they had a big portfolio of properties, and I was rapidly able to get my feet on the ground as a leasing agent and learning property management. After a couple of years of doing that, I was at a cocktail party with some brokers, and one of the older brokers said, brokers die broke. Mm-hmm. And so you got to own property. You got to take these skills that you learn in the market, making deals, learning about where there's opportunities, and you got to buy and learn deals. So I started reading about no money down and creative finance and lease options and things like that. And while doing brokerage and working on client properties, I started to assemble a little portfolio of my own. And my first couple of deals were all OPM, other people's money, or no money down, using the techniques that I learned in those books. And then over time, got involved as a landlord, manage properties, develop properties, but really segued in the mid 90s to just do my own brokerage and focus on representing buyers and tenants mostly. So that's really been my focus ever since, is tenant representation, buyer representation, working with investors that are looking to develop property in Chicago or acquire cash flow property in Chicago. And then in select circumstances, also working on behalf of landlords to help them lease and sell their properties. And I've stayed away from multifamily, but focused mainly on office, retail, medical, restaurant, nightlife type properties.
Yeah, interesting. Hey, so for the sake of our listeners, will you explain what a tenant rep is?
Sure. I'm a hired gun. So a business owner that is maybe not in the real estate business. It could be a lawyer, it could be a doctor, it could be a tech company. They have people they need to put in a space somewhere, whether they're going to lease or own that space. They need somebody to help them identify what their needs are, and then find a property in the market that fits those needs and create leverage. So I create leverage by providing either tons of information to help my clients understand what they're negotiating for and who they're negotiating with, or alternative properties that would compete with the property that they like to create leverage. The landlord doesn't know what the tenant is considering or the buyer is considering. So my goal is to get as many options on the table to give my clients strength, so that when they say I will pay X or I will lease the property for X, that they know that they've got other options out there that they could do that with, and that they're negotiating from strength when they come to the table with their landlord or a new landlord.
Yeah.
And one thing to mention, Mike, is as a tenant rep, I get paid only for success. And even though I represent the tenant or the buyer, I get paid ultimately by the property owner.
Yeah. It's I always found that niche in the business interesting, almost complex. And I think that what you do on that side is, brings a real advantage to the person moving into the property.
There's nuances in the negotiation, and your attorney is a great resource for all the legalese and making sure that the lease language protects you. But a broker's job is to identify the market terms and the mechanics of the market terms to make sure their client is protected. And so I work in tandem with the attorney to go through the documents, whether it's a lease or a contract, to make sure my client's asking the right questions and understanding, where they have leverage.
Yeah. And do you work on your own, or do you have a team with you?
So on the tenant side, I typically work on my own, tenant and buyer side. When I'm representing a landlord, I often bring in a partner. And okay. I have, being a Jamison commercial, we have 40 great commercial agents that I could partner with. And it's really fantastic.
Jamison's been around a long time. Have you always been with Jamison? I know you said you've been in the business.
I had my own shop for 20 plus years. I had a dozen agents. And a couple of years back, maybe 5-6 years ago, I kind of saw the writing on the wall that it was just too hard to recruit and retain people. And if you want to have a team, obviously it's helpful to have a team with everyone in the same company versus trying to outsource and partner up with people. So I decided to affiliate with a larger shop where I wouldn't have to do the back office. I wouldn't have to do the recruiting or retention of brokers, any of the bookkeeping, and I can just focus on deal making, which really has freed me up, and it was a great move.
Yeah. Hey, I love your comment about brokers die broke. And I used to, when I first got in the real estate business, I followed Mike Ferry. You may know that name.
Mike.
Big trainer, coach, right, nationally. And Mike used to say that there's a reason brokers are called brokers, because they're all broke, right? So that was one of those comments that always kept me from being a broker or wanting to run an office. I had a team and we sold a lot of houses, but that whole running the whole shop just never made sense. So I think that you made a smart move, I would guess.
No, the liability just became so great too, to have a brokerage operation with, errors and omissions and all the expenses and the data costs to have agents. Every agent has to have a license for the databases.
Yeah.
And it adds up, and to carry other people that aren't necessarily producing, it really made no sense to me.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it's an 80-20 rule in the business,
Say it again.
It's an 80-20 rule. The Pareto principle applies in brokerage. Whenever, 20% of your brokers are going to do most of the business.
Right. And that's a pretty standard, that 80-20 principle runs pretty true even in our own day-to-day life.
Absolutely.
I just did a post this morning that said, hey, if you wrote down everything that you do every day for a week and looked at it, how much could you eliminate from your schedule? Right? Because it's so unproductive, some of the things that we do. And I'm so guilty of that at times.
Yeah.
So, hey, listen, I know you're up in the Highland Park area.
I am.
Over the past few days here, over the 4th of July holiday, we had a terrible tragedy here in Chicago, and just want to wish the families the best, and know a lot of people are praying for those people, and
it's terrible what's going on in our town.
Yeah.
So I've lived here for a long time, and this town is very resilient, and the people are resilient, and it will come back. And I think that it's going to be Highland Park is going to be a catalyst for change.
Yeah.
In the coming weeks, I think.
Highland Park's a great community. I've always loved it. They do, I really love the art fair that they have there in the summer, and it's a great community, always has been. And, being a tragedy like that. But what's interesting is people always pinpoint, like Chicago, right? And this wasn't Chicago. This is an affluent community. And, it just, the things that happen in the world today are just, senseless, some of it. But how, in your opinion, how do you think Highland Park can bounce back from this? What are you going to see in the real estate market there? What types of, just your opinion?
Yeah. So I've handled retail and office leasing in Highland Park, as well as doing a lot of tenant rep around town. And the market is pretty beat down already. There's a lot, there has been a lot of vacancy, especially in the restaurant spaces, and a lot of turnover. Mm-hmm. And I think some of the retailers are struggling. So this is really a hard hit that we've taken. But I think that the local government and police response was so great, and people recognize that this was an isolated incident that really doesn't have to do with Highland Park as much as bigger issues in the country. And that if anything, hopefully this will add some sensitivity to people to think more about Highland Park and investing in Highland Park to help it reinvigorate in the next couple of years.
Yeah. Hey, what do you think of the, let's not just go sub-market Highland Park, but let's go macro market, right? Of Chicago and the collar counties. What do you think of the whole market and where our whole market is headed right now?
So I'm bullish on Chicago. I'm bullish on commercial real estate. I think that people need a place to go to do their business, or at least to have a home where their business lives. Whether people are going to come back to the office in Chicago 3 days a week or 4 days a week or 2 days a week or no days a week, I still think that the companies that pay their salaries are going to want to have a presence in Chicago, and Chicago is a world-class city. So I'm very bullish on Chicago. I love to see the articles that are coming out, like today in Cranes with Mike Reschke, doubling down on Loop office buildings to help turn things around. And he's just one, of the developers that are out there talking about projects, and Google talking about coming downtown is just fantastic. So I think that, it's too early to call. Chicago's a resilient town as well, and I think people want to see it come back, and all that energy is gonna push it back.
Yeah, Google's talking about coming downtown from the West Loop.
They're talking about adding another 1,000 employees, and they're supposedly, according to the news, have been looking at the Thompson Center.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah, that's an interesting space too, that building, isn't it? So what do you see as the best submarket right now in and around the city for, mid-sized company, your mid-sized company?
I mean, everybody's flocking to Fulton Market, it seems, and I don't understand Fulton Market. I don't understand how the rents are so high and what the draw is. I think that seems to be the trend. People are moving over to West Loop and Fulton Market, but they're paying huge rents to be in that market. And I think that when things settle down in the Loop and some of the other areas, River North, there's a lot of inventory there that's going to compete with those Fulton Market spaces.
Yeah. Well, isn't that the same type of gold rush that they had years ago in Bucktown and, River West or River North? And aren't those always short-lived gold rushes?
I think River North was more of a slow turn. I bought property in River North in '97, and it wasn't so good for a couple of years. It took a couple of years for it to really become red hot, and then it was red hot for 15 years. And we've seen what's happened with Fulton Market and other areas picking up traction. But as the city continues to grow, whether people leave the Loop and move their businesses out to River North and River West and South Loop, whatever they do, the proliferation of businesses and growth is going to continue in Chicago. I mean, there's no more land to build.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to either build bigger buildings on the land that's there, or look at other markets. And you still got all these great universities that are in this area between, the Illinois, Madison, Michigan, Indiana, and all those people that are graduating want to work in a big city. And all their friends that they went to school with are also thinking the same thing. So Chicago is a really logical choice for people to call home after college. And, I think that there's a lot of reasons why people will continue to make that choice.
Yeah. Hey, I had a guy say one time, God's not making any more dirt. So it's infill projects are always interesting. Hey, let's talk about the market as a whole. Where do you see interest rates? Where do you see inflation? How's that going to hurt or help real estate buyers, real estate markets?
So I'm not too concerned about the interest rates because, like I said, when I first got in the business, interest rates were 11% and people were still making deals. What's more concerning to me is that the fundamentals that I came into the business understanding, the rules of thumb that I came into the business understanding as an investor, just from that perspective, they don't apply anymore. Just interest rates are above cap rates, and it's just craziness as far as that goes.
Yeah, the fundamentals are distorted, aren't they?
Yeah. But there's new fundamentals, and I think people are stretching to make things work. Just talking about creative finance, I think that's where people can get into trouble today, is taking it. Well, just stretching to make a deal work. If a building is, X dollars a foot and you need to stretch to make it work, and you got to find equity, and the equity available is hard money, hypothetically, it's going to be tough to recover from that unless you have a tenant or a real plan in your pocket that you can execute on. And so many people that are coming off of trades are willing to overpay.
Yeah.
That it creates a lot of upward pressure on prices that shouldn't be there.
Yeah. So that's been a lot that's happened in the multifamily space. And, I'm a big multifamily guy. That's most of what I do. But that's what's happened in the multifamily space. You got a cap rate compression that's distorted, and, pricing. And now with inflation and interest rates going up, sellers are like, well, if I can't sell at the price that they were selling at 6 months ago, I'm not going to sell. Contracts dropping out, and it's just, I think it's an interesting dynamics, and it'll take a little bit for it to cycle out. Which
what might happen too, because banks have really tightened up on their lending criteria, loan to value ratios and debt coverage ratios and things like that. Creative finance might take over again, where people will say, I'll sell you my building and I'll give you an 80% loan if you can come up with 20% down, years or something.
Yeah. I can't wait for that, because that gives opportunity for a lot of good deals. And you and I, have studied with some of the masters in the past about creative financing and no money down and OPM. And so
I'm looking forward to that time as well. My first deal that I did was no money down, and I got control of a Lincoln Park retail mixed use building, office retail building that a client of mine owned that he didn't have the time to mess with redeveloping. So I convinced him to deed me some equity in trade for helping turn that around.
Yeah. Hey, listen, I know you need to go here in a minute, but we have a question in the comments. I just want you to address it. How does interest rates being above cap affect profitability?
Well, if you want to buy a building unleveraged, like a pure net lease situation, let's say it's a 6% return, you could buy it and let's say you pay $1 million and get a 6% return, you're getting your $60,000. But if the interest rates are 8%, it doesn't make sense to do that.
Right.
You can't. You could probably figure it out with leverage how you might be able to make it work, but it just makes it tougher when it's like that.
Right. Perfect example. Thanks for doing that. So here, just put this in your briefcase, but I would love to find a 3-unit mixed building or mixed use building, first floor retail, 2 apartments upstairs, a garage out back that we could access and maybe build on top of even, somewhere between what would be California and Racine and Chicago Avenue and Taylor Street.
Are you trying to take advantage of that additional dwelling unit?
Yes.
Yeah, that's smart.
Yeah. So I'd like that. I'm looking for a personal building. So if something comes up, if you see something, we can be creative on it. Even better. Keep it in mind.
I don't come across that kind of stuff really in my day to day. I'm more focused on, office investments, retail investments, things that are more residential.
Yeah, I only brought that up because you said that you were talking about the first building you bought, no money down. So
no, it was.
Listen, I know you need to run. You got an appointment this morning. Thanks for being here. I appreciate your time and your knowledge. You could just exit. I'll end and say goodbye to everybody. But we'll catch up soon. Have a great day and good luck on your appointment.
Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Stephen.
Thanks for having me.
Bye. Hey, everybody. Just want to mention that if you are interested in connecting with Stephen, you can see at the bottom of the screen, it says connect with Steve at chicagobrokers.com. A lot of knowledge, a lot of information, been in the business a long time, has some great expertise. So it could be helpful in what you're trying to accomplish in your real estate endeavors. So, hey, I just want to thank you for being here this morning. And also remember, GOB Network Conference, Multifamily Conference coming up this week, July 13th and 14th. Actually, Saturday night, Jim Biggs and myself will be doing a live broadcast, and watch for a post in my social media that'll have the information about that. But we're going to be talking about multifamily, about the markets. We're going to be talking about the conference. So it'll be a great event. We should be on for about an hour, 6 o'clock Central Time Saturday night. If you are flying in, make sure you stay a little bit extra time because Chicago's a great place. The weather's supposed to be great next week. I look forward to meeting you and spending some time together. I certainly would want to network and learn from other people. And there's going to be some great speakers at this event, a lot of great networking. And I just want to tell you that one of the goals of the event is to do 40 deals at the event. So what that means is if you have a deal you're working on, if it's something that you want to accomplish, bring it to the event. Try and put a team together there. And if you are somebody who wants to be on a team, there's going to be plenty of deals floating around that you can get involved with. So get to the GOB conference, Hey, like I said, before 5 o'clock today, direct message me, send me an email, tell me why I should give you a ticket, and we will make sure that you get a free ticket. I'm giving one away this afternoon. So we will look forward to seeing everybody soon. You have a great day. We'll be here next Thursday. Remember, we're here every Thursday morning at 8:30.